Hello, and welcome to Ditch Witch Diaries. This time we are talking about tarot, and we're in the major arcana with the Fool. So let's just get on going with my slides. Tarot, the Fool, and I just love this image of this art. It's Art Nouveau is the style, and I just love this style here. So maybe you'll see it again sometime. Who knows? So first, before we get started on the Fool, and most of my next ones probably won't be as long as this one because I won't have to do this preliminary stuff. But I feel like before we get going on this major arcana stuff, I have to tell you the difference between the major arcana and the minor arcana, right? Just in case. I mean, I just want everybody to come knowing what's going on, right? So there's two parts to the tarot deck. There's the major arcana and the minor arcana. The minor arcana, there's 56 cards in the minor arcana, and they're broken up into 4 suits. These suits are the wands, the cups, the swords, and the pentacles. So this is how it works. Each of those 4 suits has 10 cards, numbered 1 through 10, and then 4 court cards, the page, the knight, the queen, and the king. 1 through 10, it's ace through 10, of course. So the numbered cards, so I think in my last video I had said, I kept saying that the court cards are the ones that Pamela Coleman Smith came up with, but it was the numbered cards. So there was always court cards to some degree. Remember, even in that, there was like the most recent deck that was found didn't even have a queen, remember? But they did have images of the other court cards. So it's the numbered cards that Pamela Coleman Smith came up with. So those are ace through 10. And remember, there was no images on that. There were just like one coin or what, just like you would find in a normal pack of cards. Like if you had like the 5 of hearts, it doesn't have an image on it. It just has 5 hearts. So that's how they all used to be before 1909 and Pamela Coleman Smith, right? So here we go. I'm making that correction. Because I think I was being generous, I was unclear. So in the major arcana, though, now we go to the major arcana, and these are those they're 22 cards, and these cards have a larger theme. They're archetypal. Some people look at it as a huge pattern or big cycles that you go through. They're considered very powerful influences, right? So, and then these are the ones that are the Fool card is usually a 0 card, but then they're numbered. So the Magician, the High Priestess, the Empress, the Emperor, the Hierophant, the Lovers, the Chariot, Strength, the Hermit, the Wheel of Fortune. And this is a place where some people, when they break them in half, we're going to talk about how to reckon these major arcana. And I just want to note that Wheel of Fortune is usually the place if you want to break them tarot deck major arcana in half. That's where they do. Some people do it in groups of 7. We're going to talk about that. I'm sure I'll just repeat that again, but since we have all the cards sitting listed, I'll just tell you. Then it goes to Justice, the Hanged Man, Death, Temperance, the Devil, the Tower, the Star, the Moon, the Sun, Judgment, and the World. So this major arcana, these were the trumps cards. So remember, that's how we kind of traced back the tarot, was to these major arcana. This is kind of what makes tarot as opposed to just playing cards, are these trumps. And remember, originally the first mention of these trumps was about gambling, and it was that monk was talking about gambling with them. And it was to play a game that maybe resembled something like pinochle, where you had to throw down your tricks and trumps at the end. So also there's a little something that we have to talk about before we get into any cards particularly, and that's about tarot reversals and directionals. So what do I mean by reversal? Well, reversals are pretty obvious. But so let's talk about reverse cards, because there's a lot of ways that you can reckon reverse cards. Okay, a lot of people don't even do reverse cards. You might be shocked to realize that many people don't even look at reverse cards. Many famous people, many professional people don't even deal with reverse cards. So what is a reverse card? It's when you flip over a card and instead of its face up, it's now turned upside down. That's what a reverse card is. Okay, so what are the other ways to deal with this? Another way to deal with it is to look at it as the opposite meaning, the exact opposite of what that card meant. And if that works for you, a lot of people use that way. And if that works for you, like, go with that. Okay, so my view is a little different and it's a little heady sometimes. So what it is that when you get a reverse card, that tells you that it's inside you and not outside you. So think about that. So let's say you have like, let me think of a good one. Okay, let's say you had even like a reversed hermit card or a reversed four of swords or something like that, which is like really like, you've got like torpor almost. Four of swords is like, anyway, so if it were reversed though, what would that mean? Okay, some people would say that it was like lessened it or it made it the opposite. But what I would look at it is that it means that you need to really go deep inside yourself. Like there needs to be a calmness and a stillness and a unity inside your own heart and being. It doesn't mean to cancel plans, because if you got those right straight up, you might say you need to be apart from people. You need to rest in the physical world, right? But because they were reversed, I would say that's not in the physical world. That's only inside you. See what I'm talking about? And we'll talk about the reversals. I don't know if I talked about the reversal of the Fool, but if I don't, we'll talk about it. Because anyway. So directionals. What is a directional? So a directional is when you lay out the cards in any sequence, okay? These are a couple. This past, present, future is one, and it's common. That's why 1, 2, 3. But it doesn't matter if it's past, present. It could not be time related. The cards themselves sometimes face certain directions or have actions pointing in certain directions. And if that's the case, you should be looking at the card next to it where it's pointing, okay? So past, present, future is one, but also, like I said, in all cards, when one card abuts another. So let me give you an example. This is both directionality and past, present, future. So let's say in the past you had a temperance card. So this, you would say, in the past you were a time of balance and moderation and really, coming to a place where you can trust yourself and where you are comfortable in like this universal flow. And right now is a time of action and it's propelling you forward. This eight of wands energy is very action oriented, right? It definitely like drives you, but where is it driving you? So like right now, where are you going? The next card, well, you're going to grandeur, right? You're going to accolades. Wherever you're going, like there's a directional push into you being viewed well by your peers. Okay, that feeling of oh, I've made it, right? So see how it's direct. See how that and then where is it going to? You're still riding off into the future, right? So there's no direction the other way. It's all future oriented, right? Nice. And that shows you both, like if it's past, present, future, but this could also not be a past, present, future. This could be like just a clarification spread, or this could be for, and these wouldn't have a time component, but they would still be telling you that the energy is moving you towards this, like, towards the Six of Wands, right? Energy. So another thing you might want to consider up front is that you are being pushed away from temperance and towards a more grandiose kind of behavior or feeling or attitude or time in your life. So then, like, we also have to talk about major arcana and sequencing, because like I hinted at before, there is a lot of people sequence these major arcana cards. They, like, you can look at them standalone, like we're going to examine them, but they also come in a sequence. So Jung, for example, he felt like the major arcana told a story. Okay, so he has, and I have a couple books that delve deep into Jung and his story from the Fool to, the World card. Some folks, like I was hinted at before, they break it in half and they say that like there's two distinct halves to the major arcana. Some people break it in threes, like, so they take the 0 and they move it aside, and then you're left with 21 cards and 3 sets of 7. So there you go. Many ways to do that. So we're going to look, we're going to do all of the above. We're going to look at each card individually, and then we're going to take it apart as part of a larger narrative. So you can relax and you can develop your own opinions, because I'm going to give you some things that I think, but I'll tell you what other people think too. What works for me doesn't work for you, possibly. I'm not, I know a lot of people who don't do things my way, but it works very well for them. So your meaning will depend on this orientation. So many, like Crowley Waite meanings don't take Jungian sequencing into mind at all. Okay, so for example, we're going to start right off the bat with the Fool. They read the Fool as a card of folly or foolishness even. It's tied to the symbol of the jester. Okay, so my meanings, like, I'm much more sequence in the Jungian sequence. I like the Jungian sequence for the Fool card especially much, much better. Okay, how to do that. So is the Joker the remnants of the Fool? So that would mean that the tarot came first and the Joker is like the last remnants of the Trump. And again, I want to take you back, and sometimes I'm not very clear, but I want to make it clear about this, what is it called? I don't know what it's called, but simplification theory, that's what it is. And so this is what the thing is, though, is that is not true at all. Okay, and we talked about this simplification theory. So the Joker is a much later edition, and it does something completely different. But it has no bearing on what came first. Okay, so the fact that's not the playing cards were mentioned and had been around before the Trumps were even talked about. So they seem to predate tarot. The major arcana was added to the game. The Joker, and not only that, but these two things have very different uses in the card games. That it doesn't seem to serve the same purpose at all, whether you're playing the game of Trumps or whether you're reading tarot. It serves a different purpose than the Joker is used in playing cards. Even though some people want to kind of confuse this a little bit, it's better not to. That's why I prefer the Jungian sequencing type of reading about the Fool especially. So the Fool, the origins and evolutions of the Fool. So it was known as Il Matto in Italian, and it dates back to the earliest of tarot decks that we have. So the 15th century, tarot itself originated in Europe, we think. We've heard about this, right? Particularly, but we see it pretty entrenched in Italy as a card game named Tarocchi. That's when it kind of all starts coming together as tarot. And we know that the Fool has the 0 number, right? And the Fool got his 0 number by Antoine Court de Gebelin. We talked about that before, though. The Fool had many numbers. Some used 0, but it wasn't formalized like Antoine Court de Gebelin did. So there was a couple, like the Sola Busca deck labeled it as with a 0, but the 18th century Belgian decks labeled it as 22. So it could be a lot of things. I think now we're pretty settled that it's a 0 card, and I think that Antoine Court de Gebelin really solidified that for us. But these are some of these old, and I want you to look at these cards. These are some old tarot cards, and just first of all, the dog is always biting the guy in the ass. Okay, this is hilarious. Even the guy looks hilarious, like, and it gets worse. Like, just it's horrible, these cards. Okay, there's no dog in this one even. And then look at this guy. Look, I love it. There's like there's something a little like gross about it, right? There's like they're like in panties, or I mean men hate it when I call their underwear panties. So the panties on this gentleman are very low slung. Sorry for that. I may take that out. Okay. So look at they're dressed very scantily clad here. However, we do get the corona started, right? With like the image of like the multiple rays of the sun. We do get that, but they're like, and they all seem to have the staff of some sort. Some have a knapsack, some don't. But we can see they kind of have like this theme of scantily clad. And then I'm gonna pass by that one because it's like basically this guy but naked, right? And again, the dog is jumping up, nipping at the nakedness, right? So those were some old exciting cards that we got to look at. I'll try to do that with as many as I can find, and I'm sure I can find a lot of them because those are kind of cool, right? I love looking at the old cards and what the trumps were when they were trump cards before they became like really the tarocchi. So some of those were tarocchi, and then we move into Pamela Coleman Smith's rendering, right? Which we're gonna dig into deep. So 0, what is in a number? Okay. So zeros, I love the numerology of tarot, and I've got a couple books that kind of dig into this that I like nerd out on. But 0 it's like the void, but we're going to talk about infinite potential, the beginning and end. It's the starting point where everything emanates. And it can, even though you may be looking at it as a 0, you may not see that it's a spiral. Okay. That's what it really is. It's like the beginning of a spiral or the beginning of a circle. It symbolizes boundless potential, possibility, creation. Okay, so also the 0, and that is wholeness. It's everything. A circle, it's a symbol of cosmic consciousness, oneness of all human life. If you don't think it's a spiral, you think it's a circle. It's like wholeness, completeness. Circle of life. Circle. Okay, the cycles and eternity. So again, the cycles of eternity, continuity, eternal nature of all things, the universe, cyclicality, it implies. Endings are also beginnings. So a lot of these themes you're going to see in the Fool. So this is 0. This is why it's 0. Antoine Court de Gebelin was onto something, in the Busco deck or whatever. Sarto Busco. I don't know what that name was. I could look, but I'm not. Okay, spirituality and the divine. So again, this divine source, we're all of all origin. And this is my favorite one, is the void. So the circle is like nothingness inside. There's like nothingness in there. It's like the void. It's like it is like the breeding ground of potentiality, right? It's emptiness is not a lack, but it's fertile ground. I love that. That's my favorite. I'm into the void though. Jump on in. So the Fool. So I have this whole book, and I love I don't even know. I wish you could see it, but I have like a whole bookcase beside me, and all my books are done the Dewey Decimal. Like I am that obsessed about my books. I just love them so much. So I have this whole thing of correspondences of the tarot, and I find it to just be like I can't, I just get off on it. So I'm going to share it with you. So I'll share it with you for each one too. I love correspondences. And if you do any kind of magic or high magic or anything, like you should be thinking about correspondences in most of your thing, like what these ties and these connections and how everything works together and what ties what together and what goes with what. It should all like, there should be some intuitive sense to it. And so I continue to give these to you. So there's intuition about what it is, right? So the Arabic number is 0 and the Roman number is 0. They changed. The romance titles are La Mat, Le Fou, Il Mato, Matello, Il Pazzo, and La Folle. The Hermetic title is the Spirit of Ether. And that's what this image is the Hermetic Spirit of Ether. It's an imagery of that. I like that. You know what? I'm really into that image of the Fool. It's very nice. The element is air. The planet is Uranus. The Hebrew letter is Aleph, and it's there. You can see the Aleph there. I made sure that you guys could see it. The English equivalent is the letter A. We've got more, though. Okay, the animal that's associated with Fool are either eagles, crocodilios. I love the crocodilio. Birds. I love the flutterbys, too. And insects. Plants. Okay, so now come on. Borage is like everywhere in my garden. I don't know how I got so much of it, but I feel like it's everywhere. Just pointing that out. Cacao, I like that too. Cacao is like a place of, so that's also root chakra stuff. You're starting at the very beginning. It's like very much you're standing on that cliff, even though you're about ready to walk off it, right? Dandelion, we're going to see that reiterated over and over again. Almond, aspen, astragalus, bamboo, red clover, dill, elecampane, fern, lavender, linden, pine, papyrus, peppermint, rose, and star anise. The incense that's recommended is galbanum, grass, pines, and fir. You know what? I'm like, I will never walk through a forest or any place without like a little piece of paper or little baggies. I hate plastic baggies, so don't do that. Or unless they're old and used and you're reusing them to get an extra use out of them. But otherwise you could just bring paper even or little cardboard boxes. And then when I go past pine trees, I'm not taking anything. I'm just taking the pine that like saps out of the tree, or like sometimes you can even find it like coming out of the ground, out of the roots. I'll just gather that and like I'll gather it like all the pine together, and then all the cedar and spruce is called burgundy. Anyway, it's you can get your own resins and make your own incenses and things. So the rock or the stone that's associated with the Fool is topaz, chalcedony, aluminium, tin or tin. I love that they're both because we say tin foil, right? Or aluminum foil. Anyway, pumice, clear quartz, and oxides. The color is yellow. And we're going to see why. Look, it's so bright and yellow, right? I can see why. So this is the Rider Waite Smith imagery of the Fool. And I think this is an important one. This is the one that I start with, and I suggest if you're going to go through these slides that you at least have the availability to pick up your Fool card right now and look at it with me. Kind of get into that. First of all, we notice that yellow sky. That should direct us, first of all, to our solar plexus. This is about you. This is your story. Okay, this is about bright, beautiful you, courageous you, okay? Just filled with courage. It's so solar plexus-y and solar-y, right? So the second thing you might notice is that this person has a wand or a stick, but it's not a stick. Everybody says it's a wand, okay? So it's what this should tell you is that this that you have power. You have power that you don't understand yet. It's like you don't even really understand what you have. So then the next thing is that you may notice is that this person is looking up, and I could have done it for both, but they're looking up. They're not looking at where they're going. They're going to step off the cliff, and they're pretty at ease with doing that, and they're just looking up at the sky, looking around, right? And also gender. We don't know. Gender fluid, non-binary, maybe. I like that. A lot of these images in the Rider Waite Smith deck are a little androgynous or non-binary. So we get to this tunic now, and we look at the tunic and all these 8 pointed stars, and there's 12 of these 8 pointed stars. So some say that it's the 12 signs of the zodiac. 8 pointed stars, people often say, they're omens to the completion of the journey. So they hearken to this completion of a journey. Anyway. Arduous work, maybe that work paid off. And then you look at the mountains. So you see there's 2 sets of mountains, one that he's falling off of, but also this like mountain in the background, which kind of shows you that there's a long journey ahead. This is the beginning of a long journey. There's like going to be ups, there's going to be downs, there's going to be a lot of like work in this journey of the self, of you, of your courageous solar plexus person, the very highest self, the you-ness of you. I say the very you-ness, YOU-NESS of you. And think about the Indiana Jones imagery. For one of my classes, I even showed that little clip. I don't know what kind of copyright infringement I would get in if I did it here, so I'm not. But you guys can bring it up in your head from, I think it's a third Indiana Jones, where he's got to like walk off that ledge, and he has to like trust. That's like what this card is. It's like, could be like a representation of that. It's about manifestation. It's about that first step, like throwing your manifestation pebble into the universal flow. Then we go and we look at the white sun. So the white sun, and then also the way that the rays are is a pattern called the Kabbalistic crown. So both of these things, the white Kabbalistic crown denotes innocence, potential, and power. And all these tell you so much about the card. It's like my stories. This is why this translates so well, because in Ditch Witch Diaries, when I'm talking about herbs, it's this kind of dissection that gets you to a true understanding of what the card means, right? Or the herb. So the red feather is integral, okay, to your understanding, because it's a fire plume that transmits the sun energy to the Fool. And you see it in 2 other cards, the Sun and Death. This whole thing, the Fool is at the center of life and death, of the cycles of birth and rebirth, death and rebirth. The Fool is the beginning of this monumental death and rebirth cycle. And that plume is like their transmission of the sun's beautiful energy. And what's the sun? It's you. This is your journey. The sun should hearken. Think about it, your sun sign. It's the center of the universe. Yeah. So the knapsack. Then we get to that little knapsack up there that has some sort of bird, and I've heard all sorts of what that bird means, but we're just going to look at the knapsack, because some people say that it means that the Fool is completely unprepared in the world, right? You're completely unprepared. You're just left with a knapsack and nothing else going to step off the cliff, right? Other people, though, say something different, and I kind of like this even better, is that the inside that knapsack are the tools of the magician, which is the next card. And it's little things that you may, like, again, like the wand, you don't even know that you need. I kind of like that, but see which resonates. The white rose, again, purity, purity all over. And if you'll notice the tunic, which I didn't mention, underneath his tunic is a homespun garment of white. Okay, this should, okay, there's in another story, we have a homespun garment. I don't think it's white, but this is definitely like his underclothes are an interesting little note to that, and purity of heart, and it harkens to that rebirth, right? The white rose is also present on the death card. So again, death, rebirth, purity. The boots in yellow, it's courageous forward motion. So when the Fool is present, it's a card of courageous forward motion, right? And the dog. We're going to see dogs a lot in the tarot card, and we see them kind of contrasted sometimes with the wildness, like with wolves. Like these are the tamer parts of ourselves, our animal nature, but it's our tamed animal nature. So our tamed animal nature is kind of hearkening us to come back, right? But it will always follow us, even off this cliff, our tamed animal nature. So now we're going to think about this. We're going to talk about other kind of imagery of the Fool, because we saw all that like imagery that's present in the Rider Waite Smith tarot deck. But there's also some like inherent kind of Fool iconography or cultural milieu about the Fool that we end this card that we have to reckon with. So the first one is the idea that the Fool and the trickster have some conflation. And you know what? I would say so. There is a lot of like you can feel like you're gonna step off a cliff. It's and you're not seeing it. So you can feel there could be a little bit of trickiness to it. And not only that, but like, did you see all those other cards? Like they were like pretty there was some lewdness kind of like built into them. Some of them even had some like nakedness. Anyway, but the trickster is impossible to pin down and submits to no discipline. There's potential in there for good or bad depending on the story. That's kind of where the Fool starts, right? The trickster does give a lot of intentionality and like deceit, like you're moving the cards, where I think like the Fool is a lot more innocent and naive than the trickster, but there is some of that energy in there. So when you do see the Fool, you should be thinking there's something you're not seeing. There's like a cliff you're going to be stepping off of, you know. There could be some things that you don't know how to deal with because they're a little tricky, and a lack of discipline may be required at this point, or some childlike feelings, right? So then there's also this feeling like that the Fool or the Joker, or the trickster is a traveler. And we're going to see this actually in some iconography later on in the cards. There's no fixed number to them. There's 0 cards. So they kind of roam around. It makes them a little powerful. The traveler acts by insight instead of eyesight. Like that Fool is not looking where he's going. He's looking up in the clouds, right? And he's rushing in where angels fear to tread. I must have copied that directly from somewhere because it doesn't seem like something I would say. Usually, though, in all these other Fool cards, a lot of them were even blindfolded. They're just not looking where they're going. So they're kind of a traveler, but like a bumbling traveler in some ways. There's also this feeling that Fools, or the archetype of the Fool, is somehow closer to spirit. Like Fools are welcome everywhere. There's like this non-gendered childlike quality to them. Like even like we can think of Pied Piper or Peter Pan. I love all these papas. Alliteration with the P. They're often like kind of outside the normal world, like the 0 card. They're outside of everybody else. Sometimes even they have physical anomalies or mental anomalies. Like Fools are often othered, They are a symbol of the other. And you know what? That's when you go start the fool's journey, it's about you. It's about you kind of becoming that other and kind of like walking on this own journey, becoming this innocent, naive, able to walk off a cliff wherever the universal flow takes you. In the Jungian sequence, we see something a little bit different, but no less more as exciting, because this, and I'm going to grab it right now because I can see it. Uh-oh, I'm going to have to stand up. Okay. Okay. So this book, and let me actually even stop sharing for a second. Okay, so because I want you to see this book right here. See this book called, and it's backwards. I realize it's backwards. So let me tell you what it is. It's called He, and it's by Robert A. Johnson, and it's Understanding Masculine Psychology. Okay, might be funny that I have that. Let me start sharing again. But this is part of a class. Literally, the second I graduated high school, I got involved in this class that like had all this mythological underpinning, and tarot stuff even talked about. And part of it was this story about Parzival. And Parzival is a young knight, and he embarks on a quest for the Holy Grail. So there's a lot of similarities in the Fool here. His journey is marked by trials that test his courage and integrity. He ends up visiting the Grail Castle, and he sees that the Fisher King is suffering, which makes all the land suffer. But he doesn't ask the right question at that time. He's not ready. So then he has to wander around and discover things. He's determined to redeem himself from this mistake. And he grows in wisdom, and eventually he returns and asks the crucial question, and he heals the king and restores the land. So that's the story, and Jung likes this story too. And a lot of people do. If you don't know this story, I highly recommend getting this book. It's weird for me, like a chick thing, to have this book, and I don't know that I'm nearly as excited on his she version, which is Psyche. I think no, it's not. It's Eros. Yeah, maybe it is. It's Eros and Venus. I don't know. Anyway, it's somebody. Anyway, so it's not as exciting as for me as a modern one. Maybe it. Anyway. This, though, is very instructive. I would definitely be looking, if nothing else, to understand the Fool card more and understand kind of like this tarot journey. So let me put this away. Okay. Back. See, where are we? Okay, so also in the Jungian sequence, there's this kind of idea that the Fool has a potential to save everything. And that's present in this Percival card, because Percival saves everything. Percival saves the whole land eventually by healing the Fisher King. So that's what's embedded in this kind of Fool card, right? This idea for a potential savior. And that true sanity has to lead through this kind of naive, childlike way, even madness and trickery sometimes. This is the beginning in the sequence. This is the beginning of the journey. So now I wanted to show you some of my Fool varieties. So these are decks that I have. So I just thought it'd be fun to look at the different decks. So this is a tarot of the New Vision, and it shows the backward look of all the tarot cards. I love this. I love, again, there's lots of things that I love in here, but that's a really fun deck. The Herb Crafter's Tarot. Look at that. We get Dandelion as the Fool in the Herb Crafter's Tarot, because it's tied to that. So good. The Modern Witch Tarot. And I love the Modern Witch Tarot. The only thing I don't like about it is its size. Like literally I tried to shuffle it again, and I'm like really into those smaller tarot cards. And you know what I didn't show you? Oh my gosh, the one I always use, hilariously, I did not put up here. Like my card. So now, like, let me go get them. Oh my goodness. Hold, let me. Of course, the Spellcaster's Tarot. That's always a great one. And they the Spellcaster's Tarot is fun because they look at fire. They look at the elements the way that I do in this deck. Okay. See, I have to get up and get down. So I don't even know if I'll be able to find the Fool card. I can't even believe that I didn't show you my cards with the Fool because I use cards. So after we go through this, I will show you the cards the size of the cards that I use. So yeah, so let me stop the sharing so that I can show you these. Okay, so this is the size of the cards and look at how small they are in my hands. I love these cards and you know what? I don't even know the name of this. I swear it's so famous. I've had these cards for so long. This is the Fool in this card deck, okay? So some of the imagery is missing. Do you see the dog in here? Probably not. He's not exactly walking off a cliff, but whatever. I know the Rider Waite. So, but I just wanted, it's mostly because I want to show you the size and comparing it. Let's compare it to this, which is, let me show you the difference. Ah! Oh my goodness, I almost spilled the whole deck. I hate when I do that. Okay, so I want to compare the size of this Witch's Tarot, which I love the imagery in. And you know what, these cards are really stiff, but that's probably because I don't use them as often. But look at the difference in the size. See the difference in the size between that? Okay, so now you can see why. So size is huge for me because I like to shuffle mine really good. Mine are really soft and I mean, because I use them all the time, so they're super soft. And look, they're all like, okay, so let's put it all together. Where are we? Okay, putting it all together. Let's go for it. Let's see. This card is about you. First of all, okay, if you pick this card, this is a card about you. It's your journey. It's you. This is you. It calls you to you. It's your solar plexus. It's the very you-ness of you. Think about that sun, okay? It's about courage. That is the characteristic of the highest self that is associated with your solar plexus chakra is courage. And it is associated, it's about the fire of who you are at this very moment, okay? We know from that plume and also from the white rose that this is a mystical card that's wrapped up in life, death, and rebirth. This like cycle, right? So we know it's this. It's also about entering universal flow. It's about entering this journey cycle, right? There's this like eerie connection with the divine. Although it can always be it's always a card of trusting and stepping off that cliff. It's the first card of really connecting you into that flow. It's like, where do you think you're stepping off into? Like your journey. Okay, so this is again a place of all potentiality at the beginning, a possibility, a whole new cycle. We saw that with the zero, the numerology, right? You have the tools for this journey, even if you probably don't know it right now. You probably don't even know to know. Think about it. You have what's in your knapsack, which I like to think are all those magic tools. You have your wand, okay? That is a big deal. You are ready to take this step. In fact, you're so ready that you're oblivious almost. You're like easy about it. You're looking up, easy. It's a place of innocence, a place of not knowing. So whatever you think you know right now, you don't know it. That's the thing. This is like summons, like this not knowing place. Okay, you think you know every place. This tells you that you have to be the fool. You have to be the child. You have to summon that innocence, that naivete, that childlike newness of spirit. Okay, so that's what's being summoned by this card. And it's telling you to trust in your inner wisdom, your inner, not an outward way, but an inward way. Remember all the blindfolds and that they're not looking? Become the trickster, become the fool, become the child. You have to embody this. And then these are the sources that I used. You see a lot of sources, but I also put the decks here, and I of course didn't put the deck that I use. Anyway, but lots of material, and I cannot wait to see you on the next Ditch Witch Diaries. Let me stop sharing. Ah, there we go. So I can't wait to see you at the next Ditch Witch Diaries. And the next tarot card that we're going to be going over is the Magician. So get ready, folks. I will see you next time.